So hello, good morning everyone. So today I'm going to talk about the end of grade alternate assessment. Okay, so what is alternate assessment? So alternate assessment are used to evaluate the performance of the students who are unable to participate in general state assessments even with accommodations. So alternate assessment provide a mechanism for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities and for other students with disabilities who may need alternate ways to access assessments to be included in educational accountability system. All students are tested at the end of each grade to show that they have made progress. So accountability laws such as No Child Left Behind or NCLB require that each student makes annual yearly progress. So the student also in special education usually take this test with accommodations or take an alternate assessment. And so there are types of alternate assessment. So first is the checklist. Second, the observation in structured and unstructured settings. Third is performance assessments. Fourth is sample of student work. And fifth is the portfolios. Okay, so now first is the checklist. So the checklist is this method relies on teachers to remember whether the students are able to carry out certain activities. So this technique has the advantage of permitting the rapid collection of information, but due to the nature of the observation may not be highly reliable. Scores reported are usually the number of skills that the student was able to successfully perform. This method will permit the scores of students to be added up and reported. And next is the second one is the observation in structured and unstructured settings. Okay, so when we say observation in structured and unstructured setting, this is an assessment method that encourages the teachers after the training to observe whether the students are able to perform certain activities. So, observation in unstructured situation is ongoing observation of the student in everyday classroom and other settings. So, without any overt attempt to increase the likelihood that the skill will occur, by setting up the structured situation, the teacher is setting up a structure in which the skill being observed is more likely to occur. So thus making the observation of it more likely. So the scores reported are usually the number of skills that the student was able to successfully perform. So this method will also permit the scores of the students to be added up and reported. And next is the performance assessment. So this assessment is direct measures of the skill. So usually in a one-on-one assessment. Okay, so now due to the nature of students' disabilities, it is rarely are these paper-based assessments. So more likely the teacher and the student work through an assessment that uses manipulatives and the teacher observe whether the students are able to perform the assigned task. Such as assessments have the advantages of being time intensive, so that an assessment may be limited to only a handful of skills. Scores are typically assigned to each performance assessment, although in more complex performance assessment, there is an underlying scale of task complexity that may form the basis for reporting. And next is the sample of student works. Okay, so this is the fourth one. So the students may, in the course of learning, produce samples of work that demonstrate the skills being assessed. So these artifacts can be assessed. While this assessment method has the advantage of using existing works in the assessment process, not all students will be able to produce samples. And even for those who do, it may not be possible to determine how much of the work is that of the student. So the scores also are assigned to each piece of the work. Okay, so now next one is the last one, the portfolios. So this assessment method can be used a collection of students' work, performance assessments, observations, and other data about students to judge the student achievement. Okay, so now this is usually the various pieces collected to demonstrate the performance on each standard or group of standards are judged together. So although occasionally the entire content area or entire portfolio may be assigned a single score. Okay, so now next, why we should provide alternate assessment. Okay, so to ensure the educational accountability, alternate assessment are necessary in order to achieve the educational accountability for all the students. Students who are excluded from the state assessment and reporting of results are not considered when decisions are made about how to improve programs, and they may be denied educational opportunities available to other students. Okay, so next one, we provide alternate assessments to, and this is the requirements of federal legislation. This is just based on my research. So the Individuals with Disability Education Act of 1997, or IDEA, first identified alternate assessment as an option for some students. The No Child Left Behind Act of 2001, so NCLB. So this specifies that each state or district and school must be held accountable for the achievement of all students. So alternate assessments are intended to provide the missing piece that makes it possible to include all students with disabilities in states and district assessments. Okay, so next is who should participate in alternate assessment. So the participants are those students with disabilities who are unable to participate in regular assessments, even with the accommodation. So some of the students may have significant cognitive disabilities and can be assessed using alternate formats aligned to the grade level content, but based on alternate achievement standards that define proficiency differently from the general assessment. So other students may require alternate assessment aligned to grade level content that is based on grade level achievement standards, or the same definition of proficiency was the proficiency as the general assessment. Okay, so these are the examples of alternate assessment. So this is according to my research. This is just based on my research that the Iowa Department of Education has developed an alternate assessment for use the students with disabilities. So this alternate assessment primarily applies to student work that is covered by teachers, such as first, the student reading records, the math samples, student projects or products, notes from parents, teachers, specialists, and classmates, teacher data, including the chart and graph, and other tests which are referred to as performance events. Okay, so that's all for my report, and thank you so much.